the Chase Thomas Podcast, for people who have nothing but time to kill.
Super fast, all systems go offense to be atop the SEC in scoring.
See, that's kind of asking. I feel like people are going to be asking a lot out of Nico Iamaleava. Obviously, as they should. I mean, he showed a lot against Iowa. He showed that. I think something that was surprising about his game against Iowa, especially, is how good he was with his legs, and that seems to favor what you're saying here about the tempo. Because I mean, if Nico can be that constant rushing threat with the speed they have with Dylan Sampson in the backfield, with all these weapons at wide receiver, especially with what Chris Brazel has shown that he can do at Tulane. We'll see if it can translate against SEC defensive backs. But with the talent, the speed, how big everybody is, the receivers, you got that tight end out of Notre Dame coming in as well. I mean, the offense should be able to go at that pace, but it's all going to come back to Nico. I mean, it's just what he's most comfortable with. And he's shown that he's a better running quarterback than Joe was already, in my opinion. And I think they could use that big to their advantage. Do I think it's absolutely necessary for them to be at that level? I mean, that's asking him to be Hendon Hooker again. And I'm just not 100% certain that's exactly what we're going to get. He might be a different kind of type of player for that. I mean, remember, this is his first season, with his first real season running the program, I feel like. So it's tough to say in March. It's tough to say they absolutely have to have that level of speed. Would it help him? Absolutely. I mean, that's when Josh Heupel's offenses are at their best. So if he can move that quickly, if they can move at that speed to be with the 2022 team, that's probably where they could get the most amount of their firepower. I could agree with that.
What do you think, Ryan?
My initial thought when I read it earlier is kind of what Ethan said of like, yeah, it helps. I don't know how necessary it is. But, thinking on it more, that I would point out and why maybe it is sneakily more important is just the fact that, look, this is year 4 of Heupel. A lot of these SEC teams are pretty familiar with the tempo. You're not gonna get the big chunk plays because they're not ready when the play is set. But you look at 2 of Tennessee's 3 biggest games this year. You got Oklahoma, who's new to the conference. You haven't played them one time, and you got Alabama with a brand new coaching staff in, and all coaches not from the SEC. And Kane Womack obviously was at South Alabama, but no SEC ties before that was at Indiana. So I kind of think that sneakily maybe makes it more important. Again, maybe that doesn't mean they can't be really good offensively without it, but that is maybe something where they can get one over in probably the 2 biggest toss-up games of the season. When we look at it here in March, they can get one over on those teams, and in 2 games that I think are going to be really competitive. Probably, if the Vegas set a line today, I would think both those would be 4 or 5 points or less. A big play here or there could make a huge difference. And especially with a 12-team playoff, the difference in winning 1 and certainly 2 of those games could mean, playing meaningful football in December.
I think for me, it's just going to be fascinating because, like you said, year 4 part of this is so intriguing of like, can Tennessee be top 10, top 7 in scoring nationally again if they're not in that top group in tempo once again? Do they continue to evolve? Do we see more wrinkles? Do we see Tennessee play a different style? Also, just because Nico's different than Hendon, he's different than Joe, and what that looks like over the course of a full season, I think is going to be really fun and really something fun to monitor, especially early on. Is like, do we see the Tennessee of 2022 right out of the gate of just that electric, quick, we're going to go super fast? Nico's been in the system for 2 years, and he's going to operate at a totally different level, efficiency wise, or do we see them kind of just continue to evolve and not worry about tempo as much and beat teams in different ways? So this is something that I'm very, very curious about heading into year 4 here under Josh Heupel. Final Tennessee football thing that I wanted to pick your brains on. Vols new over-under, because it started off at 8.5. Now it's been bet up to 9.5. So there's a lot of Vols optimism right now among those that are keeping up with the SEC here, months out, the start of the 2024 regular season. But 4th best title odds now in the conference, and 9.5 for Tennessee. When you hear that number, Ryan, and you see stock rising for Tennessee. What does that say to you about, and how much does that change how you're viewing Tennessee in year 4 under Heupel?
To me, it's just a number that made more sense to begin with. I never really got 8.5. That felt low to me. Not necessarily when you're talking about Tennessee's team, but when you're talking about the schedule. I would say at 9.5, to me, I guess what that...
Nicely done, nephew. The Chase Thomas podcast. Hell yeah.